Good evening. It's January 22nd, 2026. Welcome to this special episode of Unity News. Welcome back. We're here at the Pocahontas Airport with Jason Hampton, KAIT Weather Watcher. Jason, appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, you bet. The news is going to be this historic weather event that's coming up. And I was sitting here thinking this morning, how many, you get a little older and you think, man, I've seen it all.
Yeah.
We had the 2009 historic ice storm.
Right.
We had the 2017 historic flood. And now then, we're getting prepared. Had been for about a week. They're telling us this is going to be a historic snow/ice event. What can we expect on the latest data? I mean, because it's all over the map, depending on what channel you watch or who social media.
Right.
But what's the great Jason Hampton? What do you think, Jason? I mean,
well, I've been looking at the models for 5 days now, watching this storm evolve, and as it does get closer, the models kind of come together. And the last 48 hours, they've been saying snow, 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 right on the northern top counties, and then not very much room for error. It goes, say, from Jonesboro to Newport. That's when you start getting the sleet mixed in. And then you go another 75 miles south of that, and that's when you start talking about freezing rain. So the room for error is very, very small. And that's why it's so difficult, and that's why I fell in love with, one of the reasons why I fell in love with weather, because it's so unpredictable. It's so fun to watch. When you watch these computer models, which one's going to get it right, or are they all going to be wrong? Because I've seen winter storm warnings with predictions of 8 to 10 inches, 12 inches, and we not see hardly a flake.
Right.
In the end, it's God's call.
That's right.
So you don't know. I've seen 1-2 inch predictions turn to 10 inches. So it's amazing to watch it all. Just with this storm, nothing would surprise me at the end of this storm. If we woke up and there was, 18 inches of snow on the ground, it wouldn't surprise me. If it ended up being a massive sleet storm with 5 inches of sleet, it wouldn't surprise me. And I see a lot of people on Facebook saying, well, I'm getting this forecast and this forecast. And well, it's totally different for your area.
Right.
And even this area, meteorologists have different interpretations of the models, and they're just giving their best guess. That's what they're doing. It's not going to be perfect. It never has been and never will be. It's just too many variables to go into it. But, as of right now,
and we're just a few hours away from the beginning of this storm. So this is about as close as we're going to be able to get with the latest information.
You might as well just quit looking at the models now and let it happen.
Right.
Right now, and I've been saying this close to 48 hours, it does look like, around the 7 to 10 inch range. If it stays all snow, you're looking at possibly 10 to 12 or more. If it, depending on the sleet that mixes in, if we go, say, 70% snow, 30% sleet, then that's going to knock it down to 5 to 7 inches of snow. Either way, this is a high impact storm. The reason why it's a high impact storm, though, is the fact that the days following, you don't see above freezing temperatures, and that's why we're not equipped. They'll admit it. The Department of Transportation will admit it. We're not equipped for these storms in Arkansas. They do a fantastic job with the resources that we have available. But with that being said, they only have so much, and these storms are hard to battle when you've got ice and snow and sub-freezing temperatures when you're looking at, you know, late or overnight temperatures of, you know, 5-7 degrees.
Right. You know, one of the things that we're getting a lot of questions, and I'm sure you have too, but one of the biggest questions is the power going to go out?
Right.
And what are the chances? I mean, with snow, you don't really have that, but a lot of snow, possibly. I don't know. What you give me your opinion on? Is the power? You think the power is going to go out, Jason?
I would say no.
Okay.
And the reason why I say no is the fact that sleet and snow, they do not stick to power lines, trees. Now, if you had a heavy wet snow at 33 degrees and you had 12 inches of snow that piled up on trees, now that's different.
Right.
This is a little bit drier snow, so it's just more like a powdery snow. It's not going to be your scenic, beautiful snow that you wake up in the morning and it's all over the trees and it looks pretty. So when those heavy wet snows build up, they do cause power outages, and I think that's where the confusion is right now. The sleet, it just bounces. It's, you know, it's just like a pebble. Everybody shows the analogy of the donuts, right? So
Right.
You've got the glazed donut, and then you've got the one with the, what is that called? This little sprinkles. Sprinkles.
The sprinkles on it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's perfect. I mean, it explains it great. You know that. It's 28 degrees, just like in 2009, and that raindrop is not frozen until it makes impact on that tree or that power line. And once it does, it freezes instantly, and it stays there. And then another raindrop hits on top of it. It freezes on top of it, and it piles up and piles up. And if you put, you know, just an inch of ice on a power line that's, what, 80 or 90 feet, you're talking thousands of pounds, and it not only breaks the lines, but it snaps the poles.
Yeah. Well, we found out in 2009
exactly
when all that happened. So it's not going to be a 2009 ice event.
No, it is not going to be a 2009 ice event unless something drastically changes. I don't see it at all. I would say the nearest location would be Little Rock over to Memphis south. That's where you start running into more of the freezing line of the freezing rain, and then just to the north of that it goes straight to sleet, and then after that it goes to snow. I'm hoping it's all snow. If it stays all snow, then you're probably looking, in my lifetime, and I've been, you know, keeping up with the weather 30 plus years, really close, it would be probably a top, maybe the biggest. Around 93 or 4, we've seen, I think it was 17.5 inches in a storm. I believe that was in...
We did here in Randolph County? We did. Wow.
Yeah, you can look it up in the record books. I'm wanting to say it may have been a March snow, I'm not sure, but it was either 93 or 94. But in the record books, when you look at it, it'll show like 9 inches one day, and then it'll show like 8 inches the next day. So that's why it's not a 24-hour record.
Okay.
So it'll kind of be like with this storm, because we're going to see a lot of the snow on day Saturday, and then we'll see some more Saturday night into Sunday.
I think the models that I've looked at, of course you looked at more than I have, it was showing we're going to get a second wave, and it looked to me like that they had moved the sleet ice line further north, and that's going to be more of a sleet event, I guess, for us. I mean, am I correct on what you're saying?
It's really close. The margin of error is, I mean, 10, 20, 30 miles. It's to the point now where you may get, just throwing numbers out, you may get 15 inches in Donovan, you may get, 9 or 10 in Pocahontas, and then you may go down to, say, Newport and have 4 or 5 inches of pure sleet.
Oh boy!
So, like I said, just a little shift, and it's going to mean the world of difference.
We have a lot of viewers in Pulaski County down at Little Rock too, so that is going to be just a major event, you believe, as far as...
Well, Little Rock is actually on the cutoff, so they could very well see, as of right now, the last I looked at it, if you take the average of models, you're looking at maybe a 1/4 inch of ice, which that's not going to, when I say ice, freezing rain, that's not going to cause a lot of problems, more traveling problems than anything.
Overpasses.
They're going to get sleet, and then they may end up with, 3, 5, 6 inches of snow. It just depends in the upper levels what it changes to. If it changes over faster, they may end up with 8 inches of snow. But the real cutoff for the real heavy power outage type ice will be around the say the Hot Springs, Arkadelphia, over to Pine Bluff. That's where the ice is going to pile up.
Okay, all right. We've got a lot of viewers up near Poplar Bluff, and actually Western Kentucky's a strong viewer area. What do you think is going to happen for our viewers that are up there and north of Poplar Bluff up towards St. Louis? And
really confident that they're gonna stay all snow.
All snow.
They won't see any frozen precipitation. I would be really surprised if they seen even sleet at all. That's where I would like to be right now with this storm because I want to see it pile up. I got a lot of friends. I go to church up at West Point and Doniphan. I got a lot of friends up there, and I got called out at church Wednesday night, and I had to give my prediction. So I went with 14 inches in Doniphan. So
okay.
It's probably a little high, but you know what? I felt it and I done it, and I just said it. And I said, you know what? If I miss it, I don't have a meteorology degree, so people can't yell at me as much as they can.
Like they do Ryan Vaughn.
Right.
Like they do Ryan Vaughn and everyone.
Yeah, so. And that's another thing. I've had so many people say, "Man, you've missed your calling. Man, Jason, you've missed your calling." And you know what? My answer is this. This is my calling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the stress. I don't have the thing. If I had that degree and I sat behind the desk all day long and I had the hateful emails, that would probably ruin it for me. Sure. I do this because I've done it forever. It started out, Jason, what's the weather going to do tomorrow? And next thing you know, people are asking me on social media, so I started doing this. And I love what I do. I think if somebody walked in this room and put that degree right there, I'd probably just push it away and say, no thanks. This is what I love to do. I like to, interact with people on social media, and I like to give my forecasts, and I don't have to, answer to the public when they get mad.
Right. Do you see a corridor opening up with snow with possibly over 14, 15 inches? Do you see? If so, where do you think that snow band is going to be the heaviest? Or do you see that at all even happening? Or
well, it's really favorable for that in western Arkansas, say the Fayetteville, Fort Smith area over to Harrison, maybe even as far as Mountain Home. It looks really good for them. I wouldn't be shocked if there's some isolated, if you get in these what I call convective bands.
Okay.
If they get in those to see some 16, 18, 20 inch totals, they're going to get rocked over there for sure.
Right.
They've got the elevation. I think the elevation plays a key factor because it squeezes the moisture out a little better, if you will. And that's something that I always, when I look at the models and I think what could go wrong, I look at that. I think that maybe they're hogging our moisture, if you will, and that upsets me sometimes.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
Because I love the big snows.
So you're predicting as far as Pocahontas north, it's going to be all snow. Is that your feeling? Okay.
I mean, like I said, there may be a little bit of sleet mix in. With the second wave. The first wave will no doubt be all snow, which starts sometime around midnight tonight or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But the second wave is going to have a little more push. It's going to have a little more moisture with it, and it could cause a little bit more ice, especially at the start of it.
Okay. All right. We're at the airport, and as a pilot and an instructor, I know that the temperature, as a rule of thumb, drops 3 degrees Fahrenheit for every 1,000 feet that you climb.
All right.
So And I think the forecast, let's say tonight, is the low is what, 14 predicted?
It's cold. Yeah.
Cold.
Yeah, the high tomorrow, I think, the last I looked was around 15.
Okay. So I look at the models and I look at, this line that they move kind of further north. Well, they're going to be in the teens, in Cersei.
Right.
How do we get sleet or freezing rain
Yeah.
whenever temperature drops 3 degrees for every 1,000 feet that you go up? So it's going to be cold.
Right.
But yet I see the surface it freezing at 14 degrees. But how in the world can it not all be snow?
You're right.
And a lot of people are wondering that.
You
can you touch on that a little bit?
That's something that a lot of people don't understand is you might have 18 degrees and see sleet, or you may have 24 degrees and see freezing rain, or you may have 37 or 8 degrees and see snow. And that is a little confusing, but it's not all factored at the surface. So you have to look up into the mid layers of the atmosphere. So you're just like you said, there's different temperatures in the atmosphere, and what they call a warm nose will go in, and then say you've got your cold air in the upper levels, and then your warm nose wedges in between the upper levels and your surface temperatures. And so when you've got a raindrop, or actually it's a frozen raindrop that falls through and hits that warm layer, then what's it going to do? It melts, and then it comes through the surface, and then it refreezes again. And you got to add that to the equation on what are we going to get, how much are we going to get. Like there's so much that goes into it. It's amazing. And to see even computer models, yes, they do, fail sometimes, but most of the time they're really good at picking up everything from freezing rain to sleet to snow.
Right. We're going to find out just how good they are.
Right.
And I've seen that the hurricane hunters are out flying in this low pressure system and flying in the Gulf. Have you ever seen that happen before?
I haven't.
Wow.
When that broke the news, I think I found out about it yesterday. It kind of shocked me, because I didn't know. Like I said, I've never heard of it before, but I think it's because not only is this storm, so impactful, it's such a large storm. When you look at the winter storm warnings, it basically covers half the United States, and it stretches all the way from Mexico to the Northeast. It's a large storm system. I think that they wanted to get as much data as they can to provide more accurate forecasts.
Because it is a big event. They're saying historic.
It is. It's historic. If we end up with 3 inches of snow and 3 inches of sleet, and you have 100 people on Facebook saying, "Well, where's that storm at? Where's the storm at? That wasn't no historic storm." They don't take in consideration what's happening in the bigger picture.
Right. When
you've got power lines snapped in southern Arkansas, and maybe a foot of snow in Donovan, but on a wide scale look, this is a major storm. As you can see, they probably can't see it on the radar right now. You've got precipitation over the Four Corners states all the way down into Mexico, and it's already stretching over in northeast Texas. Well, in 24 hours, or 24 to 36 hours, this storm's going to stretch from New England all the way back to Mexico. That tells you how big this storm system is. Right. You don't see them that big, especially winter storms.
Right. We had such a slow start to the winter. Everything, the Old Farmer's Almanac and everything was predicting a very bad winter. Well, that was the most warm Christmas.
Yes.
I actually turned the air on at my home on Christmas Eve, which I couldn't even imagine that. But it's like, is winter ever going to get here? Well, it's here.
It's here.
It's coming right there on the radar. So, but have you ever? A lot of the old timers used to say, in this part of the country, it can be too cold to snow. And the sweet spot is around 27 degrees. Now we're going to be well below that.
Right.
Do you subscribe to that? I've had a lot of old timers. It ain't going to do this. It's too cold to snow in this part of the country. Have you ever heard that?
I've heard it, and it's just not true. I mean, let's just go ahead and say it, because you know, go to Alaska, go to North Dakota, Minnesota, where it's, you know, 0 to 5 degrees 80% of the winter, and they pile it up.
Right.
It's snow. Here it is a little bit more of a factor because a lot of the times when you do have snow here, you've got a cold air push, and cold air usually brings dry air. So, and the moisture has to meet up with it. And usually when it does, sometimes I think this is where that's coming from, is the cold air pushes the moisture away. And in this instance, it's not happening. It's, you know, the cold air is here,
Right.
It's settled here. Cold air is also stubborn. It's harder to move than warm air.
It's more dense.
It's more dense, it's more heavy. That's what I was going to say next. And this moisture plume that's coming up, it's going to ride right on top of it.
Let me ask you a question. Just you were talking about the heaviness of how dense cold air is. Is that why, if cold air is setting on warm air, like in the spring or summer, does that contribute to tornadoes?
Yes,
that
it
cold
does.
air is trying to come down and make it below where it should be, but you know,
Right.
cold should be above the warm air.
Yeah.
Does that have a contribution to that?
It does. It's a fight. I mean, you've got the warm spring-like weather wanting to take over, and the cold's like, no, you're not doing it. You know, I'm still wanting to hang out here a little bit longer. And where they meet up, and it's usually in the plains, Arkansas, wherever in the early season, say just like last year, you remember the tornado outbreaks.
Yes.
You know, it usually starts here in March, April, peaks in April, and then starts falling off towards May. Well, that same tornado atmosphere in May, June, and July, it shifts up to the north, and that battle starts up there. So yeah, it does.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting too.
Right.
And when the summer takes over, then I'm like, oh boy, this is the weather I don't like.
Right. Well, you know, it's where spring's right around the corner. I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. What are your thoughts about February? What can we expect? Is winter finally arrived, and we're going to?
As of right now, I think that we're going to have at least the next 2 weeks a big slap in the face, just like you said. You know, it's been so mild and dry. I mean, driest winter on record
Right.
here. That's something we didn't even talk about. So this storm system is kind of a head scratcher, really.
Right.
Because we've not had any activity really in the past 8 to 12 weeks. I had so many duck hunters, they wanted to kill me because I said that I thought it was going to be a wet winter, and it was totally opposite. And then a storm system of this magnitude, that, like I said, we haven't seen nothing, comes out of nowhere. But yeah, you know, when you look at the longer range models, it shows really, really cold the next 8 or 9 days. And then after that, you know, you're looking into the first week or two of February. And I don't know how many years that February has been our coldest month.
We've had that. Mm-hmm.
And our most active month. Our 09 storm was in February.
Yeah.
A lot of big time storms happen at the late end of January and February. And some of the biggest storms that most of the old timers, they say they've seen a lot of them in March. I've seen a couple, but nothing like they have.
Right. Well, you know, the old timers, they have a lot of wisdom, and they've been around to see a lot of things. But I've talked to a couple, and they say it's not going to do it. I don't care what these computer models say, and all of this, that, and the other. But I'm kind of leaning toward, you know, yeah, I believe it's going to do it.
Yeah.
And if you believe it's going to do it, then I really believe it's going to do it. So.
And if it doesn't, then you can text me and
Right.
around Monday and say, well, I guess we need to listen to the old timer.
Right. Well, so when are we going to get above freezing?
Wow. Well, I mean, there's a few days, I think around maybe Wednesday or Thursday, it does warm up to close to freezing. But then there's another powerful cold front. I think it's coming around Friday or Saturday that's going to knock the overnight lows back down to single digits.
Wow.
So you're looking at winters here to stay for at least 8 or 9 days. And
As it should be.
yeah, as it should be. And some of the long range stuff that I've looked at shows the first week or two of February really, really cold. And when you have the cold, you've got 50% of the equation. All you need is moisture next. So
there we go.
who knows what happens? There's actually a few models hinting at another storm about this time next week. So.
Right. And it was about a week ago when some of the models were talking about this storm that's going to be hitting in a few hours, and they were predicting it. And of course, there's been so many, we have social media now. You and me both use social media, and if you're watching Unity News, it's because of social media. But there's so many. How can you discern if this person's just putting all these on there for what we call clickbait, make you click on that, but yet the information they're providing, and that's one reason I wanted you on today, because we had stuff all over the map. People say 20. I had someone say 24 inches of snow.
Yeah.
And heck, he could be right. We could walk up
exactly,
and it's up to the window here,
And then he'll look like a hero.
He will,
and then he'll have 1 million followers.
right. Which is what they're trying to do, of course.
Right.
But how do you discern? I mean, who to trust and who not to?
Right.
It's like trust is just out the window anymore with anything.
Yeah, I think you can figure it out pretty quick.
Right.
And when they see these storm systems and they start really throwing them what I call hype words in, with this storm it's a little different. It deserves the respect, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But with some of the other stuff, especially the long range stuff, they try to nail it out way far, and then they'll go back and they'll share their posts and say, hey, look what I showed you was coming. But if you look at the track record over time, it's not very good. I mean, they're calling for a storm. I know several guys that called for powerful storms every other week in December, and it didn't happen. They called for them the first 2 or 3 weeks of January, and it didn't happen. And now they called for this one, 10, 12 days out. It did happen. Well, they pat themselves on the back a little bit too hard, and they start spreading it out. And they do a good job of, gaining followers that way.
Right.
Because people, I guess, are drawn to, that big storm, and they're always wondering when it's coming.
Right. Some people want it, some people don't. So anyway, we're a few hours away from this, so what can people do now to prepare for this? How cold are we going to get Sunday night, Monday morning?
It looks pretty cold.
Minus...
You're right around the zeros, couple mornings at least.
Okay.
Some of the highs, like I said, I looked at the forecast for from the models, and you're showing the highs in the teens and 20s a few days, lows around zero. Just protect your pipes, take care of your pets, check on the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things that we can do. Close your vents in your house. Just do the little things, and they go a long way. Especially, lock your windows, make sure they're good and tight. With the energy bills going skyrocketing, it doesn't take much anymore. But I think if I give any advice at all that I really want to nail in, it would be stay home for 48 to 72 hours if you can. Give the road crews time to do their job. Law enforcement will be pulling people out of the ditch enough. Just stay home. If you can stay home, get your soup going, call the kids over, get the cards and the games out,
right,
and enjoy each other. I made a post earlier. I believe this is God's way of bringing families together in a fast-paced world. It slows everything down. I remember back in '09, we stayed with Shantae's parents, and it's just memories that you'll make, and you'll always remember. I remember, like I said, a storm, a few months before we lost Morgan, and we played games. Every night, every day, we enjoyed each other. Just stay home. You're safer there. I'm not saying you can't get out and make a circle and look at the big snow, but it just, it takes a toll on the resources when they have to pull a bunch of people out.
Do you think the road crews they're going to have it tough, but with it being that cold, is anything going to work to help this? I mean,
On the way here, we were noticing, all the salt they have down.
Mhm.
So, they've done what they can before the storm. They'll do what they can during the storm, and they'll do what they can after the storm.
right.
But like I said, that from what I've ever seen, they work hard. The county does. They do everything they can. They work extremely long hours. Everybody, you hear it every now and then. Well, my road's been, covered for. Well, they're doing the best they can. Just show some patience
Right.
for them people. Show some grace and love,
Mhm.
and appreciate, what they're doing, because they're out in the cold and they're away from their families when you're at home eating your bowl of soup with your kids. They're out working in it, and just appreciate it, and it'll all go away sooner or later.
Right. Do you think that things like this that happen and occur is God's way of tapping us on the shoulder?
I do. I mean, I really do. I believe it. I believe it is. I believe with all my heart that like these storms are getting worse. It's in the Bible.
It is.
We're going to go into to some end time stuff if I ain't careful. You know how I am.
Well, we need to do a show specifically tied to that, because I really want to hear your thoughts about some of those things. We've talked about before doing end time discussions and prophecies and so forth.
Yeah.
So I want to hold you to that pretty soon to come back.
I believe, I didn't mean to cut you off,
No,
but I
sure.
believe that God is going to give us all a chance. And what I mean by that is those that don't have their eyes open will see things as they steadily get worse. You have seen it in your life. I have seen it in mine. When I'm talking about earthquakes and floods and wars and rumors of wars and the things that are going on. And, it's a chaotic world right now. And people are going to start looking at that, and they're going to start thinking about things, the ones that haven't before, as these things increase. The Bible calls it labor pains, so it's steadily going to get worse and worse. And I think people are going to see that, and He's calling. That's His way of calling, saying,
Right.
Come to me while you can, because time is limited.
Right. He wants us to lean on the everlasting arms, the old Christian
That's right.
hymn. And I think you're exactly right. I think that that is what God does. Tap us on the shoulder occasionally to kind of just remind us to be still and know that He is here.
That's right, and it takes the fear away.
It does.
When the storms are gathering, it takes the fear away. Do I want to be cautious? Do I want to, take shelter? Yes.
Well, God gives us wisdom.
But you know what?
Yeah.
If he takes me, I'm ready. It takes the fear away from the storm. It takes away the anxiety. When you get God in your heart, is there things that happen that do bring fear? Yes. But when you close your eyes and say Jesus and know that all power and authority is in Him and it can be working through you,
Right.
then that takes it away.
Right. Words of wisdom right there.
It is.
Words of wisdom. And Jason, I want to have you back on to talk about some of the prophecy and end time things just really soon before garden season. It's just around the corner.
It is.
Do you have any plans, anything different as far as Morgan's Garden and so forth this year?
Not really.
Not yet.
I always look at Shantae every year and I say, I think I need to go bigger with the garden. And she's like, no, you're killing yourself. Your back's going out. But, man, since the news and everything with that, and it just took off last year. It was busy before, but it was so busy last year. I couldn't keep enough out there on the stand.
Wow.
It was amazing. So I don't really have anything different. It's so time consuming, but it's a good thing. That's not a gripe. That's a smile. I love this. It's it's time consuming, but I love it. It takes up a lot of time, especially with the pickles and the watermelons and stuff. But I think I'm at a point right now where I like where it's at. If it ever becomes work, then I'd never do it. That's what I've always told everybody, even calling high school basketball. If it ever becomes work and I didn't love it, I just wouldn't do it. But I love to garden. I love to talk to people and see people that come by. And I've got the seeds ordered. They're laying on the counter,
ready to go.
I'm ready to do it again.
Right.
But I want to see about 2 or 3 good winter storms.
Well,
and everybody else is probably looking at this and saying,
right.
"Man, is this guy crazy or what?"
Well, it is. We've been in a really severe drought, and the ground is dry.
Right.
There's ponds that are drying up that have never dried up.
Sloughs.
And look at Black River. And Current River.
Looks like a creek. Yeah.
Well, you'd mentioned it was the clearest you'd ever seen it.
Yes.
And so is Black River, of course.
Right.
Just right up here north of us, right over here, is where the Current River runs into Black River. That's the main artery as far as the water at this time of the year.
Yeah.
But that river is low and it's clear, and the ground needs moisture. Now, we get a foot of snow and it's slow melting.
Yeah.
That ought to help the ground.
It should, yes.
And it also helps, am I right? It also helps the fertilizer and stuff go in when it melts, like a slow melt.
Yeah.
But this ground we've been under a burn ban, and most of the state at one point was under a burn ban. But this is a welcome thing to where God can nurture the ground and nurture everything.
We need it. We need
it
it bad.
It's so dry. You're right. So I guess
it flips fast though.
Does.
Living here your whole life, one minute you can talk about a drought, and the next minute you can see the river right out there next to the airport. I mean, it does. It changes in a hurry, and when spring arrives in another 6 to 8 weeks, then you can expect a flood, and hopefully it won't be a big one. But it's a little bit uncommon to go through winter without an overflow. It's not unheard of, but if you go through the end of February, March, and April without an overflow, then you've got problems.
Right.
And that is unheard of.
Right. It just seems like there's a lot of unheard of things that seem to be kind of stretching the
That's
gut.
right.
So, well, Jason, I appreciate you coming on. You're always welcome. And again, I want to have you on again to talk about something besides the historic storm. Here comes the moisture, folks.
Yes.
It's coming, and
and if it doesn't pan out for some reason, and if we do end up with 1 or 2 inches, then blame Ryan Vaughn or somebody.
don't blame Jason Hampton.
Yeah, I'm just more or less, I'm looking at the models, and I'm telling you what it's showing me, and then I'm giving a little bit of watching the weather my whole life prediction. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love doing it.
Well, I think a lot of people will agree with what I'm about to say. A lot of people trust your guesses more than some people's facts.
Well,
so
that might be a little scary.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for us for this special broadcast. Like I said, we're just a few hours away. And I'm sure, Jason, you probably will be going live some if you have a chance. Or
I was planning on going live during the storm sometime, just to talk about what I'm receiving at the time and what to expect in the next few hours and things like that.
Okay, all right. And I think Unity News is going to do that too. Hopefully, we won't have to. We can go live as well and cover some things. But I hope this is just going to be a peaceful, quiet. Let the earth regenerate here, the ground regenerate, the rivers regenerate.
Amen.
And people have, God tap us on the shoulder and having time, family time, and everything. And everything's going to be all right because God's in control.
That's right.
God is in control.
Always.
Well, that's going to do it for us for this episode. Join us again in February. We'll have the February episode, and hopefully I can get this guy to come back on and we can talk about some other things. So, but anyway, until then, everyone stay safe. God bless and good night.